Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Identity Insights by Indicio. I'm your host, Tim Spring, and today I'm joined by Indicio's Director of Software Engineering, Mike Ebert, and he is here to discuss Indicio's most recent solution, which is called Bring Your Own Biometrics, or BYOB. So, Mike, let's start off with a quick explanation of what exactly is Bring Your Own Biometrics.
I like the fun adaptation of the common use of BYOB. And there's actually a little similarity between what it means for your biometrics and what it means for your beverage. Basic idea with biometrics is that you can have your biometrics stored on your device, but presentable in a way that is verifiable and legitimate for important or official purposes.
All right, and how exactly does that work? What is kind of the technical difference between BYOB and what people are doing today with biometric information?
So often legacy solutions will require that the biometric information is stored in a centralized system and usually long-term. And BYOB with biometrics allows you to carry your information with you stored in a credential in your phone. And so your biometric data either doesn't need to be stored at all, or only needs to be stored for a short time, except for where obviously required by law. But so the big difference is that you keep your data with you and the system doesn't have to keep it.
All right, so what would an example of that in the real world look like? Are there any customers that are currently using this, and how does it actually work for the consumer?
There's some situations like access with door keys or certain sensitive financial transactions or things like that. But for the most part, your average person typically encounters biometrics when they're traveling. So, you go to the airport, you're at the airline gate, and you go to get on the plane, and they scan your face and they boop you in, right? So, for an example, it's not in production yet, but with CETA, we've demonstrated the technology as an extension of the digital travel trials that we have been doing with Aruba. And so what happens is after you enroll in the system or whatever, and you travel and you get off the plane, Aruba has a number of services that allow you to use your credentials even after you've gotten off the plane. And they have a mobile verifier application that is available to local service providers and organizations. And what they can do is, where your identity is required, they can connect with the mobile verifier application and your wallet and request your credential. And then that way your biometric information is shared with them. And then they bring up the camera part of the app and take a live scan of your face. And so in real time, they can verify your identity and compare it to the person who's standing there with them and get a positive cryptographic assurance that the credential is good and that the source of the original biometrics that are tied to an identity are legitimate, and that the person that's standing with them matches that identity. And so it takes just a couple of seconds. It works on a mobile tablet. You can also have more substantial or server-based systems or whatever that do kind of the same thing. But that's kind of how the workflow works. Is in a really simple way, you can bring your data with you, and you don't end up leaving it with the service provider. And so both you're confident your data is used the right way, and the service provider is confident that you are who you say you are.
All right, sounds good. So to make the actual credential, right, where the biometrics are stored, in that example, how would they get that? I know with Aruba, sometimes they'll scan the chip in the passport. Are they pulling the biometric information from there? Or how do you create that initial credential?
Yeah, so with Aruba, the software has the capabilities to take an image capture of your visual identification zone, or the viz page, the picture page of your passport. Also has the capability to read the data off of the chip of the passport, and that's information that is the truth of which is asserted by a government. And the software also has an AI-powered liveness check. So it takes a short video of your face and uses AI-powered software to determine that, yes, this is a real person and not a deep fake, and compares that image against the data that came off the passport. And in that way, the software is reasonably certain, certain to a certain at a level of confidence that this is the same person that's using the device as is in the passport. And once the software is confident of the match and the data, then it can issue you a credential that says, this software has performed this check at this time and date, and we publish our methods for how we derive this information and do the comparisons and so on. And here's a credential that you can present at a later time where the verifying parties or the relying parties that receive a presentation of that credential can, use cryptography to say, we have the public keys and we can examine to make sure that the credential hasn't been tampered with and that it came from a particular source. So if you combine a trustworthy process and with that trustworthy source with cryptography, then everybody along the whole chain of custody of that data and information is certain of who it is and the legitimacy of that data.
All right. So how, and I know that we've kind of talked about it already in terms of the technical sense, how is this better than what people are doing today? What benefits are the customers and organizations really realizing from using these credentials instead of the centralized databases of biometrics?
Yeah, so we talked about the how, but not really the why, right? So the big difference for the user is the improved privacy and reduced exposure to identity theft. Since you can't change your face, and if your biometrics are stolen, that's a real pain. So by saying you carry your own data and it's not kept or stored in most of the systems, there are a couple where it's required by law, but most of them it can be discarded. And so, what's not there can't be stolen. And so that's a real benefit for the user. For the organizations involved, because you are storing either no biometrics or you're storing them for a short period of time while the software does its magic and then discarding the stuff, discarding the data, that reduces your security risk and your liability because, again, what's not there can't be stolen, reduces storage requirements. And because you don't have those that long-term storage of sensitive information, then you have fewer hurdles to clear and security checks, and you're not if there were some kind of compromise, if you were storing the data temporarily, then you'd have far less data, and so your legal risks and liabilities would be dramatically reduced. So less liability, less security problems, less cost.
All right, cool. Yeah, it sounds like no need for, I always hear about, Target got, hacked for hundreds of millions of identities or whatever, and they lost everyone's data. So that would basically be impossible, right? Because you only have a few at a time, only for a few seconds, right?
Yeah, so if you're only holding the data for seconds or minutes, maybe you're running a biometric gallery for a flight, so you're holding it for 72 hours or whatever. You think of some of the largest systems in the world that are processing millions of travelers per day, and you're only holding the data for minutes or hours, then you go from tens of millions of records to maybe thousands or thousands instead of millions, a reduction of 1,000 to 1 or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds way better. So, right, obviously AI is becoming a growing concern for a lot of organizations, and they're pretty good at, making up faces and deepfakes these days. I'm curious how this solution addresses AI's ability to, impersonate somebody.
Yeah, so like most security fields, when you work with biometrics, there's an arms race, right, between those who are trying to ensure security and integrity and those who are trying to compromise the system. And at the current moment, if you create a credential with trustworthy means, and the best, most trustworthy means right now are either that in-person interview where someone can shake your hand and see your face, or the video liveness check, where you detect if someone's a real person through the use of a video. That's currently enough to defeat the AI deepfakes. And once you can issue a credential that's based on that trustworthy check, then as you present that credential, right now, there's no AI that can take over your device and run it for you and present that credential in your place. And so, right now, those are means that assure the trustworthiness of the credential and then allow you to prove who you are in a way that AI can't mimic right now. The people who are working on AI are really smart and the capabilities are increasing. So at some point in the future, some additional layers of protection or security may be necessary. But for now, the liveness checks, the in-person interviews, and the cryptography involved with the credential is enough to beat out the deepfakes that AI can do.
That's an awesome answer. I like yeah, definitely recognize that AI is growing and getting better every day, but we can always improve this as well. So we are coming to the end of our time here, Mike. Really appreciate you joining me. Are there any parting thoughts that you would have for the audience that, if they take nothing else away, what should they know about BYOB?
So BYOB, when you're carrying your own biometrics, it uses technologies that are already implemented with legacy biometric solutions. So that should help people feel, at least not more uncomfortable, at least at the same level of comfort, but it's paired with verifiable credentials in a way that introduces some new benefits and added security and reduced risk. So we've seen that BYOB has extra security and convenience that really helps people when proving their identity. And we hope that people love it when they get a chance to use it.
All right, sounds good. Well, that is the end of our time for today. Thank you so much, Mike, for joining us. Really appreciate all your insights into this. If you at home are interested in learning a bit more about decentralized identity and verifiable credential technology, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll continue to bring you some more educational content. And if there's any specific topics that you'd like for us to cover, please go ahead and leave a comment below, and we'll be sure to read and address them. Thank you all for watching.